So, good evening, everybody, on my Kathy Owens-Oliver Facebook page. If you want to join me tonight in the Teacher's Lounge, then you have to go over to my Dr. Kathy O page, DrCathy and the letter O. Please go to my Dr. Kathy O page and join us tonight for In the Teacher's Lounge. So, good evening. I'm Dr. Kathy Owens-Oliver. I just made a really short video on my Kathy Owens-Oliver page to tell everyone to come over here to my Dr. Kathy O page. This is where I do a lot of my teaching and learning work and not all the personal stuff. So, for those of you who are just joining, hi Kay. We will wait a minute or so for other people to join in. When you join, if you would please post where you're joining from, maybe what city or what state you're from. So let's get started, and thank you everybody for joining. I just want to greet you during this difficult time across the country where so many different things are going on. I've been hearing stories from so many of my friends who are teachers about how they are dealing with some of the challenges that they face and what it's like to suddenly find yourself teaching in a classroom without walls. I have friends all over the country who are teachers. I used to be a teacher, and as I've just been listening to the things that they've been going through, trying to give them support and some help in an online environment, I just thought I need to do something maybe in the evenings when things have settled down at teachers' homes and they have a moment to just think, reflect on some of the things that have or have not been happening in their classroom. And I just wanted to share my expertise with you. So I am, as you heard me say before, Dr. Kathy Owens-Oliver. I want you to know a little bit about me and my background. I have probably more than 25 years now as an educator. I started my career as a high school English teacher in High Point, North Carolina, where a lot of the furniture is made, and enjoyed that work so much. I primarily taught ninth grade, also 11th at some points, but I primarily taught ninth grade English. And I joke all the time now when I travel around the country doing professional development with schools and colleges. I joke about how 14-year-olds are too old for middle school and too young for high school. So it's like this high school kindergarten group where one minute they are, crying because they have a splinter or they can't find a pin, and then the next minute they have some major life issue that they need to solve. So just that whole developmental time was really just like a niche for me, and I enjoyed it a lot. So I do miss it some, but I teach teachers now, and I feel like I'm still in the classroom in many ways, just working primarily with student teachers and adult learners. I want this Teacher's Lounge experience every Tuesday and Thursday night to just be a time to hear some of what's going on with you and share maybe some of the best practices that I have seen and utilized over the years, and hopefully that will help you get through this time in an online environment. All my life I've wanted to be a teacher. I can't think of anything else I ever wanted to be. When you're a kid growing up, you say, your parents ask you what you want to be, you say, oh, I want to work at McDonald's, or I want to be a doctor or a dentist, or all these different things. I always wanted to be a teacher for as long as I could possibly remember. I say all the time I had the smartest toys because I would line my toys up on the sofa and pretend to be teaching them, and I had a grade book that someone had given me, an old one a teacher had given me, and I used that to keep up with their grades and scores and that kind of thing. So it's just been my passion. Is just something I've always wanted to do. And I try to use my experiences as a teacher myself and also as a teacher leader to implement the classes of other teachers. In my work, once I left the traditional teaching setting, I worked for a state department and I was an instructional coach for several different school districts. So I would go in the classrooms of teachers who might have been struggling just a little bit and find out, what it is that you need or what do you need help with. And I help them to develop some of the skills and practices that they needed over time. So that was a really good experience for me. And I was able to use that to grow into my next position of teaching teachers at the college level. So I do still work in the classroom. I teach an online class at a local university, and my students are all career switchers. So they're coming from retail or business administration or science or banking, and now they want to be teachers. And I think some of them think that it's one of these jobs where you get off before 3 o'clock and you have your weekends and your summers off. And I take great joy in debunking that myth. So I want to bring all of those experiences to these Teachers Lounge talks that we're having to really get a feel for what it is that you need and how I can provide support and how I can help you in any way to be successful. So that being said, and I'm watching to see if other people are joining. I'm hoping that people didn't join my other page. I've set a video on the other page saying make sure that they join me on this page, but I think they may actually be expecting me to go live on my other page. Let me post it on the other page so people won't be looking for me. I see that Tom Fry has joined us. Hi, Mr. Fry. It is such a great honor to have you listening into this, and I hope you will thank you so much for sharing it with so many different people. I think I'm going to go live on my other page as well and try to kill two birds with one stone in case people are not sure how to find me. So just give me a second while I do that. And maybe if you will share it, then that will help. Hi, Jessica. Thanks for joining. I think I'm trying to go live on both pages in case people have joined me from the other page. So again, I'm saying welcome in case you have joined me on the other page or you're looking for how to try to find me. So I was just explaining that in the Teachers Lounge is an opportunity for me to just hear some of what is going on with you all and what's happening in your classroom, and to create an opportunity to hear some of the things that you're dealing with and share what I've learned and some of my own experiences. And I thought tonight, just for getting started, I would just share a little introduction about my background and how I came to this work. So I shared earlier that I have about 25 years in teaching and education, and I just want to use that really just to give back. I have so many friends who are sharing their horror stories with me about, what happened moving to this online environment. In some cases, teachers haven't worked in an online environment, so that's new for them. In some cases, children are so young, even though they may have spent time playing games or learning activities online, they've not been in an online learning environment. So that's very different for them. And it requires a lot of self-management, behavior management, making good choices, all of those things. And those things, while there are challenges for the students, there are challenges for the teachers as well. And I've heard hilarious things, like my best friend shared with me that her school closed suddenly, as you can imagine, and they didn't have a chance to prepare, to make sure all of the students had a device. Another one of my really good friends is a principal in one of the northern states, and her students are just getting devices yesterday and today. Over 400 students in her elementary school are just getting devices to take home. They're in a high poverty environment where a lot of students don't have access in their homes to Wi-Fi or even a device. That's one of the things we take for granted. So this has just been new learning for districts, for state departments, for classroom teachers and department chairs. And so her students have been doing worksheets or packets that teachers made copies of to send home with them, but they're just now getting in an online environment. And then some people have shared with me, Kathy, I'll tell you the truth. I know how to use Facebook and Instagram, but to just get in an online environment and just start teaching is not something that I've been acclimated to. So I've just been like toiling with all of these things and trying to figure out, well, how can I be of help without trying to teach you too much or be professorial, but to share some tips and strategies really from my own classroom. I see different people are joining now. Thank you for joining in. And would you just post where you're from so we'll know who's joining tonight? Kay, Tom, Roberta, Monica, Jessica. I see some others here. Just share where it is that you are joining from. Hi, Drew. Thanks for joining. Greg, Denise, my friend in Philadelphia. Thank you for joining. I'm on both pages because I think some people were looking for me at my Kathy Owens-Oliver personal page, and I was saying go to the DrCathyO more educational page. So I'm on both pages tonight just to help people get acclimated to this. I'll be doing this every Tuesday and Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So if you know any educator, teacher, or school leader, then tell them to join in. I want us to get to the point where I can take a lot of questions from you and share feedback and tips and strategies to help you out. But until then, I have a few things that I've prepared to just kind of, share with everybody and hope that this will give you some help in the classroom. So take a minute to post where you're from. I want to know where you're from. Denton, Texas, Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Hi, Diana. I'm looking for I got to get my charger. I'm kind of glad that this is happening because this gives you actual proof of what the online experience has been like for a lot of my friends who weren't ready for this. So I want to get my charger because I'm using my phone for those of you who joined from my personal page. Here we go. So one of my friends said that, I want to cancel that. Woo, technical difficulties. So one of my friends explained that during her first time of getting acclimated to this, she closed her Zoom camera, but did not end the meeting. So her young elementary students stayed online without her and had their own class and did a lot of interesting things. I'm sure that there are other teachers who have had that experience, lessons learned. But what I wanted to share with you tonight, most of all, is this. Listen, I'm trying to get my personal phone to cooperate. Don't sweat the software. That's what I thought would be most appropriate to talk to you all about tonight. Don't sweat the software. Whether you are using Skype, WebEx, Zoom, TK20, Blackboard, Canvas, I've used all that software, so I'm very familiar with it. There are lots of trainings online that tells you how to use the software and all of its bells and whistles. It makes sense to learn all of the functionalities and the different things that the software provide for you, but don't let that be your focus. If you get your camera working and you know the basics and your students know the basics, go with that because they are expecting you to show up and be fully present. I say to people all the time, you are not teaching math. You are not teaching English, science, whatever it is. You're teaching Meredith and Monica and Melissa and John and Franklin and Matthew. You have to keep that in mind. I think a lot of what happens is that we can get, and I don't want to say hung up, but we're so focused on our plan, our lesson plan, and sometimes the learning plan gets lost in that, and sometimes it's important to let the conversation go where it goes. That's really critical. So don't sweat the software. You'll learn more about the software. They're adding more features as this experience is taking place across the country. You just want to make it meaningful. That's the important thing. You just want to make it meaningful. One of the things that I used to do in my classroom that I want to share with you that I think will help. Listen, this will help everybody. You want to get your students talking and you want to get them not just engaged. We talk about engagement. Engagement is very important, but you want to hook them. You want to get them more attentive to what you're doing and saying on the screen than what is happening in their house. You're not in your classroom, you know that, but they're not in a classroom either. You are in there, and you're not in your house as the teacher. You are in their house, and everything that was going on that you did not know about, you may know about now. And everything that they may have brought to school in some ways as baggage, they are living in it and with it while they're trying to pay attention in class. One of my friends said, a student said to her, I don't think I have to do all this work because my mom said there's no test at the end of the year, and so I'm not going to really get a grade. Everybody's going to just pass this year, so I don't think I need to do all this hard work. Another one of my friends who's a teacher said her own children told her, I think that you're teaching us too much. I think that's unfair because I have friends in class whose mother is not a teacher. And so because you're teaching us more than what they're getting. So I would rather you not teach me so much so that I won't be ahead of the students in my class. Interesting thing for a first grader to say. But all of these things are going on with them. And they're used to being on the computer for games, for playtime, for social activities and interacting with other people and friends. So you have to bring that to them into the classroom. So don't be stuck trying to be the best whiz at everything the software can do or trying to cover everything in your written lesson plan. If you haven't figured that out, you're going to figure that part out soon. You won't get through it. Think of all the times in your own classroom, whether it was a 45-minute session or hour, or in my classroom, we were on the block schedule, so it was 90 minutes. So think about all the times that you had a plan and you got through 60%, 75%, sometimes only 30% of that plan. Take that approach in an online environment and write down, like what I did for tonight. I wrote down 4 points that I wanted to make sure I made. You may have to take that approach. I'm not in any way watering down the curriculum. I'm just saying you have to be really, really creative about how you want to get the information across to them in a way that makes them stay on the screen. One of my friends is a speech pathologist, and they're doing their jobs as well in an online environment. And she said at one point, one of the young kids just walked away and she was yelling and screaming, hey, come back to the screen. So that's funny, but you got to keep in mind, not everybody has a controlled environment at home where behavior is controlled. Their parents aren't just watching everything they do because they're doing their jobs, some of which are online, or they're not doing their jobs, something we've had to deal with parents all the time. If I use my personal story, if what's happening in the country right now were happening to me when I was young, I would not have the support at home because I was not in that kind of an environment where support could be provided. So there would have to be an assumption made that I was really focused at the computer and doing what I'm supposed to do. And these young people, whether they're in kindergarten or a senior in high school, I promise you, they're more technologically savvy than you are. And while they are staring at your screen, they're doing 3 other things on the screen that you don't know about. So you have to make class highly engaging. So I just thought we would take these Tuesdays and Thursdays to kind of talk through some of the things that you're dealing with. Maybe I could be a solution provider for you. Maybe I could be a listening ear. I could share with you ideas for materials. If you want to write to me at info@DrCathyO.com, info@DrCathyO.com. If you want to write to me and say, look, I need help with this and I don't want to say that out loud in the teacher's lounge, then I'd be happy to help you with that. We miss the teacher's lounge, and sometimes the teacher's lounge wasn't a room set apart in the school. Sometimes it's just getting together in our own classrooms to just talk about what's happening, what's not happening, what we're going to do about it, how it should be addressed, what our challenges are, sharing strategies, ideas, a snack. So I'm sure for you all who are classroom teachers and other educators, you miss that time, that one-on-one time. And when you're not teaching your own students during the day in an online environment, you have to deal with your family and your own kids and other responsibilities. So anything that I can do to help, that's what I'm here for. For those of you who are just signing on, thank you so much for joining. So I had said I was going to share with you one of my strategies that always hooked my students. It always worked. And I just want to share it with you. And you might take a moment to respond to this. So let's do it together. I shared this with one of my teacher friends and she loves it. I've done this with my college students that I teach. I have done this with adult learners when I'm leading professional development workshops. And I have done it in my high school classroom many, many, many times. So normally I did it on a Monday. So I would have them take a sheet of paper, looks like this. For those of you who are watching on Facebook, I would have them take a sheet of paper. It looks like this. And I would have them write I am, and then they would have to write 3 words. Of course, I said to them adjectives. Write 3 words of what it is that they're dealing with or going through. It was a no talking assignment, totally nonverbal. You can have your students do this in the chat box. It works better with younger students if you have them do it exactly the way I just demonstrated it, because then you get to see them holding it up on the screen in your gallery view. You may want to just start off with just 1 word. I had students say things like, I am tired. I am hungry. 9th graders, you heard me say, 14-year-old. I am sleepy. I am excited. I am a winner, they would say, especially if it was an athlete. They might say, I'm focused. I'm afraid. Then I'd have to wonder, what are they afraid of? And they'd tell me later, the test, because I didn't read the chapters or do the assignment. I remember, oh wow, I have so many teacher stories. I remember one of my students, 9th grade, 14-year-old, wrote on her I am sheet I did it every Monday. So I did this assignment every Monday. And they had to use an adjective that described themselves in any way. And so she wrote, I am pregnant. So this is a 14-year-old. It might have been my third year teaching, I'm not sure. And I remember walking around to her desk during an assignment, and I had written on a Post-it note, you need to see me after class. You're not in trouble. I want to talk about what you said. If you're not available after class, find me anytime today, even if you have to interrupt another class. Because all I could think about was, who else has she told? Who else knows? Do her parents know? What is she thinking? How is she dealing with this by herself? Now, keep in mind, I had what I told you. I had high school, kindergarten, the 9th grade, 14-year-olds. They are too old for middle school and too young for high school. It's the misfit group. I think everywhere in the country we should have just the 9th grade school. And if you've been a 9th grader and you remember what a terror you were, then you agree with me. She came back later that day. I'll never forget this. She sat down on the floor behind my desk. My desk was not too far from the wall in the corner of the classroom, and she sat on the floor behind my desk. She couldn't even look me straight in the face. And she said, okay, I need to tell you about it. So she proceeded to tell me that she was 4 months pregnant, that she had not told her parents, that she had not told anyone. And I remember listening distinctly and saying to her, that's not a horrible thing. That's not the worst thing that could happen. I remember her telling me that her parents were in the ministry and that she would be ostracized if she told them. And all I could think about was, for the sake of her health and what was right for her moving forward in terms of life decision making and making sure she took care of herself. When I say right for her, I meant whatever she chose to do. I just didn't want her to be alone in this process. So in any case, I gave her a matter of days to tell her parents, and helped her kind of walk through that situation. Now, that's more of a serious one, but this could be fun too. Your students may say, I am hungry. What if they say that I am sad, because of this virus or something that is going on? It gives you as the teacher, though, a really good indicator of what's going on in their little heads, or big heads if they are high school students, and you know what I mean by that. But it gives you a really good idea of what they're thinking about and what they're dealing with. And I have another example, because you don't have to just use I am. You could use I feel, I want, I miss, I love, I feel, I want, I miss, I love, whatever you want to say. And you could do this in the middle of a class. You could do this to grab their attention back after there has been a break. It doesn't have to be at the beginning. Sometimes when you have a group of them, especially online, and they aren't paying attention. Thank you, Jessica. She said, I love this. I love getting the hooks. But sometimes in an online environment, you have to do some consistent things to get people's attention or what have you. So that's really important. Think of other ways that you can get them talking without talking, and drawing or artwork or bringing an artifact to show or share. That's an important part. I did a lesson one time. My principal didn't like it, but it was a hit. I was introducing a short story about this girl who had a hat. The story is actually called The Hat. And she wore this big, huge hat to impress a boy while they went to the beach or what have you. And the hat got blown off her head and out into the water, and it had fruit on it. Just whatever. It was this crazy, funny story that I did with 9th graders. But I told all of my students before I introduced that lesson for short fictional narratives to wear a hat to class, not to school, to class. So they wore the hat to school. So when the principal and other teachers were stopping them in the hallway, they would say, Miss Owens, that was my maiden name, Miss O said I could wear my hat to school. And there had been, so many of them because, I was in a high school. I had 5 different periods a day. I had 20 to 30 students in every class, God forbid. So there are 100 students coming into school in the morning from different directions telling everybody I'm wearing a hat, which was against the school rules. No hats in the building. I'm wearing it because Miss O said for me to wear a hat. And I was teaching the short fictional story. I was teaching about symbolism, imagery, all of these different things. I always wanted to bring learning to life for my students. I actually have a couple of students who have moved on with their life now, and some of them are on this video. So that encourages me. I also have one of my high school teachers watching right now, so that encourages me. But in any case, it was a great way to get them involved. You may want to do that. Tell all of your students wear red. Tell all of them wear something blue or green, or wear a hat, or wear your favorite sport, something that represents your favorite athlete or sports paraphernalia, but do something that gets them really engaged in the lesson. If you have a question or an idea, you can type it in the chat box. I'm paying attention to that so that I can respond to that in the last 5 minutes. But like I said, this first session is really just introductory to let you know what I'm going to be doing. So just take some time at the end of the day to wind down and join us at 9 o'clock on Tuesdays and Thursdays to talk about how you navigate your way through this environment. Those of you who aren't educators, perhaps you're parents and you're also working with your children at home, whether they're young or teenagers, and you need some strategies too. The script has really been flipped, and teachers who've been working with your children for 180 days have now split that time with you. So everybody has to get involved. I'm writing a book right now, and in that book I talk about whether you have your own children or not, and whether you are a teacher or not. The educational emphasis of this country is on the shoulders of all of us. So you have a responsibility, at not just as a voter, but as a citizen, to positively influence what is happening in the classroom of a lot of these students. I have seen hilarious posts on social media where parents are praying, asking God, please let the schools open so they can take my kids back. I've seen a lot of teachers poking fun at parents saying, oh, you feel me now. Now you get it. Now you understand what it is that I have to deal with your kids every day. I haven't seen a lot from the students, but I've seen a lot of teachers sharing, now you understand. Now you know my pain. Now you see that who you think you send to school is not who that child is. I've seen so many parents write, I appreciate teachers so much more than ever before. Somebody wrote, teachers need to make $1 million a year for what it is that they have to deal with. So this is an opportunity for all of us to get involved in education, whether you're a formally trained teacher or instructor or not. And I'm just doing what I can on Tuesdays and Thursday nights to make it light, but to also give you some strategies. So share this information with any educators or teachers that you know, your parents, teacher, or any educators in your family, school leaders, and see if you can get them to just join us in the Teachers Lounge and talk about what's happening in their classrooms and how they can be addressed. I definitely have to say this. The same problems that children have dealt with or were dealing with and bringing to school, they have those same problems. Don't think for 1 minute that because they're not going to a school building that they don't have any trauma that they're dealing with or personal issues. While you probably think being home with you, they are safer, and I would agree for the most part that is true, do know that they are not at home, because they can do what we are doing right now and be in contact with people, not just young people, all over the country, and subject themselves to all kinds of influences. So you have to be aware of that. You all as parents and citizens, but also those of you who are teachers, listen, your students have the same baggage, and in some cases, cases, for some of them, it's worse because things that they were looking forward to in school this year, they're not experiencing. On the one hand, it may be a positive for you because some of the things they were into or thinking about getting into, you're thinking perhaps now they won't because they're at home with you. And if it's not something they can engage in an online environment, you might be right. But just know the ball of yarn is wrapped and tangled, and there's a lot going on with children that sometimes we're just not aware of, even our own kids in our own house. So be aware of that. Parents, use this as a time to get to know your children all over again. Not the person who comes home at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night after a ball game or band practice or soccer practice or whatever sport they play and grab something to eat and get on their phone or whatever device and go to their room and close the door. Not that child. The one that you didn't see that day from 7 in the morning until they got home at 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night. Those of you with early adolescents and younger children, it's an extremely developmental time. They're learning language from other students that they interact with, vernacular as well as a way of being. They're figuring out who they are and how they fit in. They're developing friends. And those who are older are dealing with some of the loss of that as well. Not having prom, not having father-daughter dance, what the plan that they're going to have now for graduation. Somebody told me today that graduation for one school is going to be online, and everybody's picture will be in an online music related video that everybody can just watch, but not live. But some of us are thinking about how disappointed they were over spring break, but their whole lives have been interrupted. I hope you're not too old to remember your own sophomore year, junior year, senior year in high school and what it meant for you, whether it was positive or negative, and what your experiences were. So some of them are having a lot of withdrawal over that. My boss said to me last week that he lets his daughter, she's a freshman in college. So this is your freshman year of college, and you come home before spring break or right before or after midterms, and your whole school year, your freshman year, is just over. And so he said it's harder for her, he said, than anyone else in the family because she had so much of this first lifetime freedom at 18. So he said that he and his wife let her drive to get donuts and come right back home. So she has this experience just of getting out and being around people. So be very present and conscious. I'm talking to parents a lot, even though I intended this for teachers, but I hope teachers are saying, yes, please tell them, please explain this stuff that they need to know. But we all have a responsibility. We all have to be involved. I'm getting concerned about my neighborhood because I've worked from home for several years now. You're in my classroom right now. And I've worked with students and student teachers all over the country and adult learners and as adjunct faculty with my class, and I'm looking out the window or going to my mailbox or going for a walk during the day, and I just see kids. They're just everywhere in our neighborhood, and I'm thinking, what time is the learning? What time are you focused on the classroom? So anything that I can do to help with wherever you are in this process, please reach out to me. I'll be glad to do it. Join me on Tuesdays and Thursday nights at 9 p.m. This has been very didactic tonight, where I've done a lot of the talking, but I do want this to be more interactive starting this Thursday. I do want you to post and share your questions, your ideas, anything you need feedback on, so that I can lend and share my expertise. Let me end by saying that my high school math teacher is on. He was the first person to join tonight. I don't know if he's still on, Mr. Tom Fry. And I just think it's important to honor all teachers tonight. Those of you who have joined, listen, if your job has ever been difficult, it's difficult now. And this is a time where you're being told a lot more of what to do, but it's also a time when you get to bring your best game to the screen. And just really keep that in mind. Bring your best game to the screen. What I'm doing when I'm at my best is teaching, and I'm sure that's true for you as well. And don't let anything, even being suddenly forced into a classroom without walls, hinder you from doing your calling, your being, and doing what you do best. So bring your best game, your A game, Every time you show up on the screen, it's not a platform, it's your classroom, and nobody does it as good as you. And your students are looking forward to that. You are somebody's break, you are somebody's mom, you are somebody's inspiration, you are somebody's second chance, you are somebody's mentor, you are some student's best friend, you are some student's hope. So you got to show up every day just like you did in your real world classroom and be live and be exciting, teach like a champion, and teach your heart out. But I want to end with this. I grew up with most of the stereotypes that you might attach to a young African American girl in a high poverty environment. And so I want to give honor to all of the teachers that are watching tonight, but to my high school math teacher, Mr. Tom Fry, who joined tonight and shared the promotion of these meetings with so many people on Facebook. And this is not something that I have to make up. I have said this, Mr. Fry, to all 46 states that I have traveled to, working with colleges and school districts, doing professional development training, teaching students, teaching teachers, teaching the teachers who teach the teachers, and I have used you as an example so many times. I have never been a strong student in math, and because of my circumstances, I didn't get the help at home that I really needed. But you heard me say earlier, I wanted to be a teacher my whole life. I've never wanted to do anything else. This is my life work. I love doing this. And I was so terrified of math growing up, and knowing at 12 years old, I made a decision. I have to make straight A's and I have to do everything right. And listen to the story, because you've got a Kathy Owens in your classroom as well. I have to try to do everything right because I have to go to college, because that's my ticket to life. That's my only way to get out of some of the negative circumstances that I am in. So in high school, I did not have strong math teachers at first. I'll just be honest. I hope none of my other high school teachers are watching. And I remember being terrified of trig and calculus, just terrified. Like, I'm not going to get a scholarship. It's going to mess up my GPA. I won't be able to go to college. Like, I don't get the math thing. And I knew that I wanted to be a teacher. I knew I didn't want to be a math teacher, but I knew that I really wanted to be a teacher, and I didn't want anything to interfere. And I have to say thank you, Mr. Fry, for differentiated instruction. I didn't know at the time when I was 15 and 16 that that's what it was called, but I travel all over the country teaching it now, and I learned that from you. You modeled that for me, how to teach math to Kathy, not just teach math. A lot of teachers do the spray and pray method. You just do whatever you planned in your lesson plan, and hopefully most of the students will get it. I'm not bashing anybody, but teaching becomes rote like that to some of us. And so the fact that you, and I'm talking to Mr. Fry, for those of you who are listening, the fact that you made it meaningful and that you were teaching me and not just teaching the assignment really made a difference in my life. And as I was planning to share tonight, I thought I want to share a personal story, a powerful story from my own experiences. So I learned differentiated instruction from you. And I will never forget that there was a small group of us, maybe 8 or 9, that were in your Algebra 2 class, and you knew full well that we weren't ready for calculus and trigonometry, and I know that I was one of those. And so you created, I know you remember this, an Algebra 3, whatever that is. I guess it's the bridge between Algebra 2 and Calculus and Trig. And I only needed 3 maths in high school anyway. And so you created this Algebra 3 class, and there was a small group of us, like only 9, a lot of us African Americans, unlike you, and just as a white male teacher who paid attention to our strengths and our shortcomings, and the impact of family dynamics and issues on our personal lives, and how you went to the principal and advocated to create a class for us that never made us feel labeled. It made us feel wanted. It made me feel special. Years later down the road, when I understood more about individualizing education around students' needs and differentiating the lesson to meet individual students' needs, I thought, oh, that's what Mr. Fry was doing the whole time. But underneath that surface was what you knew about us and about some of our weaknesses and challenges as individuals. And you created an opportunity. I have to tell you, in many ways, it saved my life, because I got the grades that I needed and a full scholarship to college. I only had to take 1 math class in college, University of North Carolina at Greensboro, and I placed out of that math class. And I mean, it was basic, like 1 + 1 was 2. I got that right. The exam was over. I'm exaggerating. But look at the trajectory that my life has been on and how that set me up for success. So I have to say thank you, sir. I honor you. And I just want to say to all the teachers and educators that are listening, That's the kind of impact you have to make. That's what this job is about. So even if you do the assignment that I shared with you earlier as a strategy to find out who they are and what's happening to them and what's going on in their background, use that. Use whatever you have to use to get in their house. And that's how you get in their head. Some of you are probably in shock, and you've probably shut down your computer several days now thinking, I had no idea about the living arrangements. You're looking at your students on the screen and you're seeing certain things in the background, and you can tell what some of your students' limitations and challenges are. This is your time to do your very best work, because this work is about saving lives. So thank you for what you do. Come to me to vent and share and get inspiration and ideas. Join me on Tuesdays and Thursday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. We want to be much more interactive. You can write to me in advance. info@DrCathyO.com, DrCathyO, info@DrCathyO.com. You can write to me in advance and say, look, talk about this, address this, ask about this. Here's one of the challenges I'm having in my classroom, and I certainly want to be of help to you. Thank you, everybody who joined. If you're joining on my personal Facebook page, these Tuesday and Thursday night meetings are on my business Facebook page, DrCathyO. So we want to switch over to there next time. Good night, everybody. Have a good evening. My prayer for you is for God's grace and mercy and protection over your family and your classroom. My prayer for you is that even while you are sleeping, ideas will come to your mind, that you'll wake up in the mornings fresh and alive and ready to get online and step on the stage you were called to and be the best teacher you can ever be. And my prayer for you is that when this is over, we will be better for it, and we will have made an even greater impact in classrooms and in the lives of students all over the country. So good night, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. And please share these meetings with people you know who are educators.